Having supported neurodivergent children and young people and their families since about 2007 in various different roles, one word that you hear an awful lot is the need for consistency. That would be a word that I would hear early on in training courses I'd go on. It would be something we'd be often trying to put in place at the youth services that I ended up managing, and something I'd be trying to achieve to help particularly the autistic young people I was working with feel comfortable. So consistency definitely has a role in how we support someone. You know, ultimately, if we are trying to help them learn the consequences of something, doesn't have to be punitive, we might need a consistent response. Particularly with an autistic young person, uncertainty can create more anxiety. So again, there's a need there to be as consistent as possible so that they're not panicking or worrying or guessing how we're going to be and how we're going to respond. So yes, consistency has a place, definitely. But one thing I think changed about the way I approached the support that I gave, and certainly that when I started working with parents directly, started to share with them as something that was important, was actually, yes, consistency of approach is important, but not at the expense of connection. And you have to meet that person where they are at that particular time. So for example, if I had a young person I was working with who was swearing in public, which put them at risk and would likely limit their use of public facilities. So that's my kind of reasoning there, not because I think it's impolite or inappropriate. And I wanted to work on that with them, but I understood enough about them by being connected that they were anxious, dysregulated, and that's when swearing started to happen. I might consistently have some sort of reminder. I might use quite a low demand reminder, which would be another sort of aspect of the Neurodive approach, I suppose, as well as this kind of idea of being connected over consistency. But if I have a reminder, something low demand, like, I can see you're upset, mate, but I'm just worried they'll kick us out if we talk like that too much, you know? So you give that consistent reminder. So you can get that consistency. If we're using that one day and then the next we're saying, stop, don't you dare do that again, we can see where that consistency becomes important. But equally, if I have noticed something or understood something about the level of his dysregulation at that point, and my main goal is to get everybody safe, and I can worry about that later, I'm going to probably back off that reminder if I know that it's in any way likely to be a trigger. So again, my knowledge of that person, my experience with that person, my connection to that person will help me decide that in that moment. And that's why regulating yourself and staying calm yourself is so important, because it's not always easy to do, particularly if you're elevated as well. So we need that connection so that, you know, consistently, you might say, offer a low demand reminder about the consequences of the language. But equally, if you're using a connected approach, you might do that fairly consistently, but there might be occasions where things have gotten so elevated that you would back off. Backing off is not backing down. It doesn't mean you've given up on that approach. It doesn't mean you've given up on that reminder. It just means that you've read that situation with that young person and done your best to stay connected and give them what they need at that time. So that's where I think connection comes over consistency. But what I would say is actually my go-to, or what I'm trying to achieve. And again, practice makes you better. It doesn't make you perfect. So we all will struggle at certain times to be consistently doing what we want to do to support that young person. But if we try, we can be consistently connected. So that would be my go-to if I could choose exactly how I was going to respond in a situation. So I'm consistently connected with that person. I'm showing empathy even when I'm giving those reminders. If I'm introducing a boundary, it's non-confrontational, it's connected, it's delivered with some empathy. You know, I can see this is difficult for you, or I can see this is having a certain effect on you, or even just something between you two that is connective, something you say, you know, that again, that will be individual. But yeah, so I guess the sort of key message there, the key idea, which I think drives a lot of the Neurodive approaches that I now sort of teach to parents online. We have webinars, we have a subscription membership you can access. The details will be in the description if anyone's interested. But if not, and you're working either as a professional to support neurodivergent young people, or you're a parent supporting neurodivergent young people, I would encourage you to think about, yes, consistency, and if you can, be consistently connected. I've chosen these words that are not easy for me to say, and I'm not doing editing and stuff, so they're sort of lives but not lives, so expect the odd tangent. Apologies if that's hard to follow, but you know, if you want to come on the webinars and access the training and stuff like that, or work with me directly one-to-one, you might have to put up with it, although I am better at listening when there's someone there talking. So, you know, anyway, we'll come back. Yeah, so that consistency, whilst it's important, we want to stay connected, and we want to understand that sometimes we might need to back off, and that doesn't mean we're backing down, and it doesn't mean we're inconsistent, but there's a reason for it, you know. And then at that point, you can bring in the consistency. You can share on that person's one-page profile, or with your parenting partner or family members, or the professionals that you're trying to help support your young person, because you know them best if you're the parent. You know, you can be sharing that stuff. Or, you know, if he's at this level showing these signs, you probably could use this gentle reminder. If these things are happening, it's best that you just don't say very much, and try and, you know, move him somewhere safer, or encourage him somewhere safer, or whatever that is for that individual.